A jeepney driver from Cebu sang Elvis to survive heartbreak, not fame. One viral moment carried his voice from noisy streets to the AGT stage. If you're ready to witness the most shocking performance ever, watch the full video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.
Under the night sky, I find my way, strumming softly as the stars play. Feel the rhythm of the night, dancing under neon light. We're alive, we're alive.
The sun always rose early over Cebu City, spilling golden light onto the narrow streets where life began before most of the world was awake. Vendors lifted metal shutters, children laughed on their way to school, and jeepneys painted in bright reds, blues, and yellows rumbled awake like living creatures. Among them was one particular jeep that many locals recognized instantly, not just for its bold color, but for the voice that often floated out from its open windows. Miguel Santos was only 24, but he carried himself with a quiet steadiness shaped by years of responsibility. Each morning, he wiped down his jeep with care, adjusted the small rosary hanging near the windshield, and took a deep breath before starting the engine. Driving a jeepney wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. It paid the bills, helped his mother, and kept him connected to the pulse of the city he loved. As he drove, weaving skillfully through traffic, Miguel often sang. His voice blended with the honking horns and street chatter, transforming ordinary commutes into moments of calm. Passengers smiled. Some hummed along, others pulled out their phones to record the singing driver, who sounded uncannily like Elvis Presley. Elvis wasn't just music to Miguel. He was memory, comfort, and connection. When Miguel was a small boy, his father would sit beside an old radio that crackled more than it played, patiently tuning it until the familiar voice of the king filled their tiny home. Those evenings were sacred. Miguel would curl up on the floor, listening to songs like Love Me Tender, Can't Help Falling in Love, and Suspicious Minds, feeling emotions he didn't yet have words for. His father would tap the rhythm on the table, sometimes closing his eyes as if the music carried him somewhere far away. Before Miguel turned 12, his father passed away, leaving behind silence, an aging guitar, and a faith that music could carry a soul through even the hardest loss. After his father's death, music became Miguel's refuge. When life felt heavy, he picked up the guitar, fingers rough from work, but gentle on the strings. He sang quietly at first, then louder, letting the songs say what he couldn't. Neighbors began to notice. They'd pause outside his home at night, listening from the street. Someone jokingly called him Elvis of Cebu, and the name stuck, eventually becoming Elvising Cebu. Miguel laughed it off, never imagining that his singing was anything more than a hobby, a way to honor his father and keep hope alive. Despite his modest dreams, Miguel had a presence that drew people in. At local fiestas, friends would push him toward the stage. Just one song, they'd insist. He'd hesitate, then smile shyly and agree. Under strings of colorful lights, with the smell of street food in the air and laughter all around, Miguel sang with a sincerity that made people stop what they were doing. He didn't try to copy Elvis note for note. Instead, he let the emotion guide him, blending the spirit of the king with his own lived experience, as a Filipino son, worker, and dreamer. One evening at a barangay celebration, Miguel sang Suspicious Minds as the night breeze moved through the crowd. His voice rang out, strong yet tender, carrying heartbreak and hope in equal measure. People cheered, some wiping tears from their eyes. Among them were Miguel's closest friends, who quietly recorded the performance on their phones. Miguel had no idea that, later that night, they would upload the video online and submit it to an Asia's Got Talent audition portal, believing fiercely in a future he was too humble to imagine for himself. Weeks passed. Life continued as usual. Miguel drove his jeep, sang to his passengers, and strummed his guitar at night. Then one afternoon, while checking his phone during a break, he saw an email that made his heart race. At first he thought it was spam. He read it again, slowly. Asia's Got Talent, invitation to audition, Manila. His hands shook. He laughed nervously, then sat down hard on the jeep's step. When the official letter followed, complete with details and confirmation, Miguel dropped to his knees at home, clutching his father's rosary and whispering a prayer of gratitude through tears. Preparing for Manila felt surreal. He packed lightly, a change of clothes, his old guitar, and the rosary that had belonged to his father. On the ferry ride, he stared out at the water, heart pounding with fear and excitement. He wasn't chasing fame, he just wanted to sing honestly, to share the music that had shaped his life. Over and over, he whispered softly, "This is for you, Papa." The New Frontier Theater was unlike anything Miguel had ever seen. Bright lights, massive speakers, cameras everywhere. Backstage buzzed with nervous energy as performers rehearsed and whispered prayers. Miguel stood quietly in a corner, eyes closed, breathing deeply. He felt small but grounded. When his name was called, his legs trembled, but he stepped forward anyway. The stage lights blinded him for a moment. He squinted and took in the sea of faces, the towering judges' table, and the unmistakable presence of Simon Cowell, whose reputation alone was enough to shake anyone's confidence. Miguel introduced himself simply, voice soft but steady. "Good evening. My name is Miguel Santos. I'm from Cebu, Philippines. I'll be singing a song by Elvis Presley." As the first notes played, Miguel closed his eyes. He imagined his father beside the old radio, the quiet nights on their front steps, the long days driving through Cebu. When he sang, his voice filled the theater with warmth and longing. It wasn't just sound, it was story. The audience fell silent, drawn into the emotion of every lyric. The judges leaned forward, curiosity turning into awe. Miguel didn't perform for applause. He sang as if he were alone, offering his truth to the music. By the final chorus, people were already standing. Some cried openly, others clutched their hearts. When the last note faded, the silence broke into thunderous applause that seemed to shake the walls. Miguel stood frozen, overwhelmed, eyes shining with tears. Simon Cowell smiled, a rare and genuine expression. He spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. He praised Miguel not for imitation but for authenticity. He said that Miguel hadn't tried to be Elvis, he had honored him by being himself. He even added that Elvis would have been proud. For Miguel, those words felt like a blessing. He bowed deeply, hands shaking, tears streaming down his face. The performance didn't end when Miguel left the stage. Overnight, the video spread across social media. Millions watched, shared, and commented. People from different countries wrote messages of admiration. News outlets called him the pride of Cebu. Back home, his jeepney became a moving landmark. Passengers lined up, asking for selfies, requesting songs, cheering him on as if he were family. Despite the sudden fame, Miguel remained grounded. He still drove his jeep when he could, still visited his neighborhood, still sang on his front steps at night. Music had opened doors he never imagined, including an invitation from Simon Cowell himself to perform in Las Vegas at an Elvis tribute concert. Standing on that grand stage months later, Miguel held his guitar close, voice trembling with emotion. He dedicated the performance not to himself, but to every Filipino who dared to dream beyond their circumstances. As Miguel sang, the lights glowed softly, and for a moment, it felt as if time folded in on itself. The boy listening to a crackling radio, the young man driving through Cebu, and the performer standing before the world all became one. His journey wasn't about becoming famous. It was about staying true, honoring the past, and believing that passion, faith, and kindness could carry a voice from the busy streets of Cebu to hearts around the globe. And somewhere beyond the applause, in the quiet space between notes, it felt as though a proud father was listening, smiling, knowing that his son had finally been heard.